In the vast, unpredictable waters of the 17th and 18th centuries, piracy became more than just an inconvenience. It was a force that shook the very foundations of naval supremacy. Pirates, once considered little more than common thieves, would go on to create a legacy of terror that would haunt the naval forces of Europe for generations. The birth of piracy. As trade routes flourished, so did the opportunity for pirates to strike. Spain, England, France, and the Netherlands built empires on the backs of merchant ships laden with treasure. For the pirates, these merchant vessels were more than just targets. They were gateways to wealth and power. Outcasts from society turned to piracy as a means of survival and a path to riches. Golden Age of Piracy. The Golden Age of Piracy, spanning from the late 1600s to the early 1700s, saw the rise of some of the most infamous pirates in history. Names like Blackbeard, Bartholomew Roberts, and Calico Jack Rackham struck fear into the hearts of merchants and navies alike. They weren't just men with swords and pistols. They were ruthless tacticians who knew the seas better than their naval adversaries. The pirate ships, fast and agile, could outmaneuver the heavy, cumbersome warships of the Navy. Their swift attacks, often happening at night or in remote areas, gave the pirates a massive advantage. Pirates' strategic advantage. The pirates were well versed in the tides, winds, and geography of the seas. This allowed them to move quickly and disappear before a navy could catch up. They often targeted merchant ships with valuable cargo, but what truly made them dangerous was their ability to strike naval vessels head-on. Pirates would use clever tricks, like feigned surrender or deceptive signals, to get close enough to attack. Once they were within striking distance, it was a matter of overwhelming force and brutality. While these early pirate conflicts were characterized by small skirmishes and opportunistic strikes, the pirates' rise didn't go unnoticed. Navies across Europe began to realize that the pirates weren't just a nuisance. They were a serious threat to their control over the seas. This led to the early confrontations between pirates and the navies of the day. The first major naval confrontations. One of the earliest major confrontations between pirates and the Navy took place in the Caribbean, where pirates had gained a notorious reputation. In 1718, the British Navy began a concerted effort to eliminate piracy in the West Indies. The confrontation with Edward Teach, better known as Blackbeard, is a perfect example of how these early naval battles were waged. Blackbeard, known for his terrifying appearance and ruthless tactics, commanded a fleet of pirate ships and had a reputation that preceded him. The British Navy, led by Lieutenant Robert Maynard, engaged Blackbeard in a dramatic battle near Ocracoke Island, North Carolina. Blackbeard fought ferociously, using every advantage his knowledge of the waters gave him. But he was eventually killed in a bloody fight that marked the beginning of the end for his reign of terror. The growing threat. Despite Blackbeard's death, piracy continued to thrive. Pirates like Bartholomew Roberts, known for capturing over 400 ships, and Calico Jack Rackham, with his distinctive flag of a skull and crossbones, remained powerful figures. The naval response, however, was growing more organized and brutal. The British Navy began to use more sophisticated tactics and formed alliances with other European powers, coordinating efforts to hunt down pirates. The pirates, however, weren't going down without a fight. They adapted to the changing naval strategies, using their knowledge of the sea and ruthless tactics to remain a significant threat for years to come. Pirates' code and ruthlessness. While the pirates were bound by their own code of conduct, an agreement that provided a certain level of fairness among their crew, they were also incredibly ruthless. The pirates operated on a simple principle. They took what they wanted, and no one was safe. They didn't just target the ships. They were after the wealth and influence that the Navy represented. In their eyes, the Navy was the oppressive force that controlled the seas for the benefit of the empires. To the pirates, the Navy's wealthy merchant ships were ripe for the taking. As pirate crews grew larger and more organized, they began to develop stronger, more sophisticated strategies. The simple attacks on merchant ships turned into larger, more strategic raids that often resulted in the death of sailors, sometimes entire crews. The pirates didn't just seek treasure, they sought to send a message. The Navy was not invincible, and they were willing to pay any price for freedom from the Empire's grasp. The stage was now set for the final showdown between the navies of Europe and the pirates. But before we get to the bloody conclusions of these deadly encounters, let us first understand the motivations behind the pirates' actions and how their fight for freedom would ultimately lead to their downfall. As piracy spread across the seas, the conflict between pirates and naval forces reached its peak. The pirates, once small-time criminals, had become a force to be reckoned with. However, their reign of terror was soon to face the greatest threat yet: organized, relentless naval power. The final showdowns between pirates and the Navy were not just about power, but survival. For the pirates, it was a fight for freedom. For the Navy, it was a battle to restore order and secure the trade routes of their empires. The decline of pirate power. By the early 18th century, the pirates' days were numbered. The British Navy, along with other European forces, ramped up their efforts to hunt down and eliminate piracy. The pirates had enjoyed a period of success, but as the naval forces became better equipped and more coordinated, their advantage began to dwindle. Naval ships, once too slow to catch pirates, now had the speed and firepower to overwhelm them. One of the key turning points came in 1718 with the British decision to send a naval force specifically tasked with eradicating piracy in the Caribbean. The pirate Blackbeard, already a target of the Navy, would soon be caught in a bloody confrontation that would mark the beginning of the end for pirate dominance. The death of Blackbeard. Blackbeard, whose real name was Edward Teach, had terrorized the Caribbean for years. His ship, the Queen Anne's Revenge, was a formidable vessel, and Blackbeard's image, wild Blackbeard and slow-burning fuses in his hair, was enough to strike fear into the hearts of even the bravest sailors. In November 1718, Blackbeard's ship was cornered near Ocracoke Island. The battle that followed was brutal, with Blackbeard and his crew engaging in a bloody fight that saw both sides suffering heavy casualties. Despite the pirates' fierce resistance, Blackbeard was killed in a final stand, reportedly after receiving multiple gunshots and stab wounds. His death was a significant blow to piracy in the Americas, and his severed head was displayed as a trophy, marking the end of an era. The Battle of Bartholomew Roberts and the Navy. While Blackbeard's death was a major setback, it didn't mark the end of piracy. Bartholomew Roberts, another infamous pirate, continued to wreak havoc on the seas. Known for his cunning and ability to capture hundreds of ships, Roberts became one of the most feared pirates of his time. He even established a pirate republic and successfully managed to maintain control over much of the West African coast. However, Roberts' reign would also meet a bloody end. In 1722, after engaging in several successful pirate raids, he came face-to-face with the British Navy in a final battle. Roberts's ship, the Royal Fortune, was no match for the heavily armed naval forces that had been hunting him for months. During the battle, Roberts was struck by a fatal shot, and his crew was forced to surrender. His death was another crushing blow to pirate resistance. The fall of the pirate strongholds. By the early 1730s, the pirate strongholds in the Caribbean and along the American coast had been dismantled. The Navy's relentless pursuit of pirates was finally paying off as pirate ships were sunk and their crews captured or killed. The British Navy, working in collaboration with other European powers, employed intelligence, strategy, and brute force to wipe out pirate havens. Former pirate strongholds, like Nassau in the Bahamas, were taken over, and pirates were hunted down one by one. The pirates who survived the Navy's onslaught often turned to more desperate measures. Some surrendered in exchange for amnesty, while others were executed in public, their bodies left as warnings for others. In many cases, the pirates met grisly deaths at the gallows, their violent lives ending in a brutal display of public justice. The final stand. The last significant stand against the Navy came in 1725 with Charles Vane, a pirate captain known for his defiance. Vane's crew was infamous for their rebellious nature, and despite the Navy's increasing strength, he managed to escape multiple naval attempts to capture him. However, in 1725, Vane was finally cornered and captured by a British frigate. His capture marked the end of one of the last major pirate fleets still operating in the Caribbean. Vane's execution was a sobering reminder of the fate that awaited pirates who refused to surrender. Despite his defiant spirit, he was hanged for his crimes. His death was one of the final marks of the end of the Golden Age of Piracy. The aftermath and legacy of pirate resistance. By the late 1730s, piracy had all but been eliminated from the Caribbean. The once feared pirate fleets were either destroyed or integrated into naval forces, and the seas were once again dominated by European powers. However, the pirates left behind a legacy that would never be forgotten. Their daring exploits, audacious raids, and rebellious spirit became the stuff of legend. The bloody deaths of pirates like Blackbeard, Roberts, and Vane marked the final chapter in the story of piracy's golden age. Yet, their influence endured. Pirates became heroes in folklore, their tales retold for generations, inspiring novels, movies, and even modern-day pirates. The pirate flag, skull and crossbones, became synonymous with rebellion and lawlessness, a symbol that still holds a certain mystique today. Though piracy on the high seas may have ended, the stories of these final showdowns remain etched in history, a testament to the bloody battles fought for freedom on the vast, unforgiving oceans. The pirates may have been defeated, but their spirit of defiance lives on in the annals of maritime history.